While we sleep, the guardians of the night take to the streets, having said goodbye to those they love. Each other knowing they may never say these words again, they face the evil that we run from. They dedicate their lives to those that would hate them because they wear the badge. They wear the badge not for the glory or recognition, but because they were born to honor the thin blue line. This is the LEO First Podcast. We'll talk to the men and women in law enforcement, those that have retired, and anyone who's impacted by law enforcement. We'll peel back the curtain, and you'll get the real stories. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Every law enforcement officer has a story to tell. Get ready to hear from the men and women who put their lives on the line every day for their communities and their country. Welcome to the LEO First Podcast. Now, here's your host, Michael Laidler.
Hey everybody, it's Michael Laidler, your host of the LEO First Podcast, and I'm coming to you live. Like I said, well, maybe not live, because by the time they see this, it won't be live, but in person in Alabama, specifically Birmingham, where I have been speaking at the Alabama Sheriff's Association. Now, I just finished talking to, what did I say, about 60 to 70 sheriffs at one point.
That's right.
Yeah, at one point. And it was pretty cool. I created a presentation called Calm on the Outside, Screaming on the Inside, essentially designed to highlight the changes that they have coming up in Alabama, because when they brought me in to speak, they were like, hey, we have a lot of stuff going on in 2026. All of the officers are going through elections, but also the executive branch in the state is going through a lot of major changes as well. And it was like, they just wanted some information, some motivation, some inspiration on things to start looking for, because we all know, especially in the sheriff's office type of business, you can't be last minute planning. That's because right. It ain't like you could just show up to an election, or you could just show up and everything happens. Certain things you have to do to get your team ready, to get the community ready. So that's what my presentation was on. And I talked my guest into coming on to the podcast. I've been working on him since October, and he finally said yes. So I said, hey, after my presentation, let's go upstairs or let's find a room. He found the room, and here we are. So Josh Summerford, 24 years of law enforcement experience.
That's right.
What do you want to talk about today?
Well, you like the show to be organic, so I assume we're going to talk about leadership and law enforcement leadership and some of the organizational changes that you talked about today when you spoke to the sheriffs at this winter conference.
Yeah. So tell me, all right, so I talked a lot about change. That was one of the things that I really hit on, obviously. That's what I was brought in for nearly 3 hours. What kind of changes do you create or going to create as a deputy chief?
So the sheriff and I both really like things to change and be progressive. We don't like to change things just for the sake of changing, but we're changing all the time to improve things, to have better technology, better equipment, make our personnel safer. But a big thing is a lot of time in government, even at a local level like we are, we find processes that we see that, hey, that's a waste of time. So how can we streamline that or make that more efficient so that our deputies or corrections officers aren't wasting their time doing repetitive work?
And that makes sense. The fact that you're kind of on that track already, because in the green room prior to the start of the show, we talked about 24 years of experience. And you're on your fourth agency now?
That's right. Yep.
So tell us, just run us back, what are the 4 agencies that you've worked, including Cherokee County?
So right out of high school, I became a reserve deputy at the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office.
18, fresh.
That's right. And then shortly after I'd been doing that, I went to working in dispatch. And so I worked at the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office for about 5 years doing dispatch. I was the administrative assistant to the sheriff, to investigations. And really I learned a ton of stuff during that time about how a sheriff's office operates, because I was always with the investigators or the chief deputy or the sheriff. So that was a very educational time. And then after that, I went to I was at the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office for about 5 years. Went to a small police department in the county for about a year, and then ended up going to work at the district attorney's office, which was a really big deal. My heart was really into criminal investigations, and so when the district attorney at the time gave me that opportunity, that was pretty exciting. So I went to work there as an investigator, and eventually became the chief investigator there, and was there for almost 10 years in the DA's office.
That's a little time.
And then I only left there because Sheriff Shavers, you know my sheriff in Cherokee County, he asked me to be his chief investigator, and so I left the DA's office to go do that. Some people thought I was crazy to leave a really good job at the DA's office for that, but I really wanted to get back into the field at that time, and so I left the DA's office and to be the chief investigator in Cherokee County, and then about 6 years ago, the sheriff appointed me as his chief deputy.
That is some changes. Like, I thought I had changes. Like, I have 3 law enforcement agencies under my belt plus a business, but they're all kind of similar. Like yours, a lot of people don't understand how much dispatchers do. So you went from doing dispatch work, reserve work, to working in DA's office, and now working at a sheriff's office. Like, I mean, it's a lot of moving pieces, but I think that's cool because when we talk about organizational changes, we talk about leadership roles, and we start looking at the players that make that happen. Like, if you're running the front poster, like you're that person that you look at, because I mean, seriously, because sometimes we find people in law enforcement that's only worked for one agency all their career. And sometimes when there's big monumental changes, or there's even minuscule changes, they're like, oh crap, like what am I gonna do? Versus you, like you've made decisions like, okay, I know I have a passion in this area, but my passion over here to get back in the field, like you said, is even stronger. So when you're going through this change of career, like what kind of processes did you take back then to kind of like help you kind of push yourself to actually leave the cushy DA job?
Yeah. Well, I think like starting out, and we talked about this earlier today, maybe I was too extreme, but starting out, I felt like I was a nobody, but I don't think my administration treated me that way, but I wanted to work hard and prove myself and do the extra work and extra duty so that they would recognize my hard work, and I would be promoted from that. I remember when I was a new deputy, or actually remember when the first sheriff that hired me, I didn't know what the job paid. I didn't ask what it paid. I didn't care what it paid. And then, but I remember as a young patrol deputy, I would work my shift, and then I would stay out and work with the next shift that came in just because I loved it.
It's old school right there.
And so I just loved it. But I always try to constantly better myself. You know me well enough to know that I'm really never satisfied with okay, I've done this, so I'm good. I don't need to do anything else. I mean, I learn every day, and whether it's I learn a lot from coworkers, and I learn from young deputies. Of course, I've got great mentors around me, and whether it's coming to a conference like this or doing a class that I seek out, I just think it's important to not stop learning, because I feel like some people may get to a position and think, well, that's what I wanted to do, and so now I've arrived, and so I'm done learning and done improving.
And it's crazy how the leadership cycle works, because based on what you're saying and based on what I heard and based on my understanding of you, you just don't sit around idle. Like, you're not just you don't. But like what some people don't do, like, you're not just a teacher, you're also a student. Like, meaning that you don't just say, okay, I'm gonna put on a retreat, I'm gonna host these classes. You also get involved. Like, you're coming to these conferences. Right. You're FBI NA grad. Like your things that show that you're still willing to learn, even
Right.
at this level. And some people that are watching that might be chiefs or might be sheriffs already or warriors are like, well, it's only probably because he's second in charge. Well, no, not really. I mean, your Sheriff Jeff, he's all over the place, but he's doing the same thing. So that's great to see that learning mentality. And I think sometimes people undervalue what the leaders of their organization are doing, because what you're doing, when they're just not telling people what to do, you're also leading by example and participating. So the people that are following you, they can't say, oh, well, Josh didn't do that. And it's like, well, I'm at these conferences, I've done the FBI thing, I'm taking these training courses, so you're continuously learning. So how have you seen that impact like the deputies or the lieutenants or sergeants like around you at Cherokee County?
Yeah, so I think all of our younger deputies especially seem to really desire training. They're always looking for training that they want to go to, and we try to make every opportunity possible to send them to training, and they really seek that training. And we're training's important to the sheriff and I. You mentioned him, but he's been in the business now for 44 years.
Going strong too.
Going strong.
He is going strong.
He
I got to
is.
give him that. Like he's a beast mode. So I don't know how many of the sheriffs are going to watch this or how many people are thinking about it. The Jeff Shavers in Cherokee County, that he is definitely someone I can, if I was in the sheriff market that I wanted to be one, that would be someone I would want as my mentor.
I agree, and I think his colleague sheriffs in Alabama, they very very much respect him. Just a couple of years ago, they awarded him, named him Sheriff of the Year in Alabama.
Easily.
And he's a hard worker. He's not the type of guy that thinks, so I've been doing this a long time, so I'm going to sit back and relax in the corner. That's not him. He works every day. He's at the office, pops in at night some, pops in on the weekends, and about learning, he's always seeking to learn something new also. So he's a good mentor to me, but I think he's a good mentor to some of the other sheriffs in Alabama also. I
can see that. And it was cool because even talk about a real life example. One thing that he did earlier, and I know you weren't paying attention because he probably does it all the time. I was putting out index cards like just during one of the breaks, and he was like, "You need help?" And he was dancing, like he was walking towards it with his hand, like he was like, "Hey, you want me to just help you do like handouts?"
That's right.
And like you said, he's not sitting in the corner watching.
Right.
So when I think about leadership, like I think about what he's doing, and then obviously you see what he's doing, then you're transferring that to the other people you're working with. It's very impressive from an outsider's view, because you don't see that all the time. You don't see two cohesive individuals putting their mind together and just kind of flowing off each other. Like, what is the left and right hand doing? They actually know in this case.
Right.
Like the deputy actually knows what the sheriff's doing, and the sheriff knows what the deputy's doing. So I think that's really cool when it comes to leadership, because not everybody always has that kind of positive relationship with their leader. But I think from my perspective, you have that, but you also display it to the people that follow you.
Right. Well, I think, we are fortunate in the team that he and I are. I know sometimes, number one and two of any agency, not just in law enforcement, sometimes you see it on the national level between president and vice president.
Yeah, that's true.
And aren't always cohesive, but he and I work great together as a team. There's things that I'm not good at that he's good at, and there's some things that I'm better at that he gets me to do, but we're always on the same page. 99.9% of the time I know exactly what he's thinking and what his vision is and what he would do, and so I feel like we're a really good team, and he's put a lot of trust in me, and I'm grateful for that. But I love what I do. It's I would not want to be chief deputy for just anybody.
Fair enough.
And it works out well for us, I think. So,
how does some of this, like, obviously from my perspective, your professional life, it seems very good and solid because you have a good relationship with your leader and the people, most of the people, because you can't please everybody. Most of the people that follow you, they seem like they have a good relationship, or at least you have the door open enough
Right.
But, hey, if y'all want to come and talk, you may not get the answer you want, but you're going to get the answer you need and you deserve.
Yeah, the sheriff and I, both of our, doors are open, literally, not just figuratively, and people know that they can come talk to him or me, or but like you said, everybody doesn't always like the answer or the advice that you give, or the decision you make. But we're transparent, and we tell people all the time, hey, we can't explain every decision that we make because there's sometimes not time, and maybe you don't have to know. But I tell them all the time, if we do something that you think, oh, that was dumb, why would they do that, or we make a decision that upsets you, come ask about it, and we'll tell you, the thought process or why we did it, and you can still be upset about it, but at least you'll know how we arrived to make whatever the decision was.
Just like the video we watched earlier, you don't have to be liked. You can be likable, but as long as you respect them and like you give them the opportunity. Like, hey, part of good leadership, and this is my opinion, part of good leadership is telling people the truth.
Right. It's
actually coming out and not telling them what they just want to hear. Tell them, like, this is what's going on. This is why I made this decision. This is why sometimes some decisions we make it on the information we have.
Right.
And if that person at least comes to you, they may be able to give you a reason why. And then that makes you as a leader like, oh, I didn't know you had all that going on, or I didn't know this happened. Now that you told me, it allows me to be more open, even my response. But unfortunately, some people take the road of, oh, he's just an a-hole, or he's just being mean or rude. He don't understand.
Right.
Obviously, you don't understand if you don't know. And I think that's sometimes that communication gap that even followers fail to utilize, because with an open door, if you don't walk through it, then the door's just open.
Right. Well, as a leader, I feel like, you shouldn't strive to make people unhappy, but you can't just focus and dwell on making everybody happy, because that's impossible. I know you're a John Maxwell fan and coach, but I saw he said, he was speaking the other day, and I saw it, and he said something that I really liked. He said, I'm here to help people, not to make people happy. I'm not a clown, I'm a leader. Mm. And I thought, well, that's really good. I mean, like I said, we don't try to make people unhappy, but you can't, people are always going to be upset, over a promotion or just anything. If you've got a promotion to corporal and you've got 10 applicants, well, 9 people are not going to.
Yeah, somebody's going to be upset.
Right. So, anyway, I thought that was a good Maxwell quote about leadership, and but that's our goal, is to help people.
Correct.
To build people, to develop people. And when I was chief investigator, I'd tell people all the time, hey, I want you to be a better investigator than I ever was.
Correct.
And so that, we try to develop our people to be good supervisors, and they're good at whatever their job is, and and hope that they far exceed any of the work that I ever did.
Mm. So you're the second in charge of a fairly large office, and obviously comparatively as far as like the state goes. It seems, from my perspective, that you have a good professional relationship with most people in your organization. How do you think that translates to home life, as far as not having as much stress to take home?
Well, I think for me, our home life is public safety and criminal justice.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying, but even so, I mean, I know both of you guys are involved in the criminal justice system, but even then, you see people that aren't flowing as well.
Right.
So how do you think, like, the fact that you can, if you carry things home, it's not as bad as like maybe people in other circumstances?
Yeah, so, I know people, certain things stress people. Sometimes people are overwhelmed by the job in law enforcement. I'm not saying this is necessarily healthy, but like for my family, it really is our life. As you know, my wife is a prosecutor. She's district attorney now, and so our jobs go so hand in hand that she knows the people that work at the sheriff's office. I know all the people that work in her office. We're a small enough place that we know everybody that works in either office, and big crimes or big things that are going on, that's what we're dealing with. If something really bad happens, I get a phone call, but her phone's also going to ring a few minutes later. So
you're like, oh, there it goes.
Right. So, it's really a passion for us, though. I mean, it's, I feel like for both of us, it's a calling, just like some other occupations are as well. But I feel like if it was not a calling to both Summer and I, that it might be a disaster in their house, but just because of, her job's very stressful. That's
absolutely
district attorney, but I think it would be a disaster if we didn't feel like it was our calling to try to help people in the capacities that we're in.
Yeah, and that's important. Like I said, it's cool that you recognize that as a calling, because if it was anything besides that, especially with two high stress positions, there would be a lot more. And obviously, every relationship has its ups and downs, but there would be more downs than up.
Right.
I mean,
No,
obviously,
that's right.
obviously, you come home tired, she comes home tired, and sometimes that makes it what it is. But the fact that you guys both have passion, you at the end of the day, you understand why you're in that career, but you also understand why you're with each other too.
Right.
And it's because y'all, it is a great match. And if it wasn't, obviously, we'd be talking about something else. I mean, some of us have not had great matches. I mean, I haven't had the best match, but it's life. But
Right.
It's cool when you can have that professional, workable stress, because everybody has stress. Like, people think, oh, I can live stress free. That's not even a real thing.
No,
like that's like literally.
That's very
no. That's if people think they can have no stress in their life, that's stressful in itself. So like
Right.
studies that show that there's
Right.
a healthy amount of stress, and I think, from my opinion, is that you guys have a healthy level of stress between you two, at work and at home. So, which is good. So, what are some things you do when you're not at work that you utilize as like ways to de-stress?
So, my wife tells me pretty regular that, hey, you really need to find some more hobbies. But I don't have a lot of hobbies, but we do like to travel.
Mm-hmm.
We especially like to go to national parks. We have a 3-year-old now, so that's
Slow down a
let's
little
slow
bit.
the
Yeah,
hiking trips down some
For now.
For now. So that's our big focus. Obviously, we're both involved in church, and but she recently bought me a set of golf clubs. I've never played golf at all, so
Not me.
so that was a big hint. So, but that was in the summer, and so somebody I work with said, "Hey, we should start playing." The excuse then was, "Oh, it's too hot. Let's wait till it cools off." And then we're in Birmingham today, and I think the high is 20 degrees. So,
that's too cold.
So it's too cold.
Yeah.
So that's not working out real well.
So no, that's cool though. Yeah, because hiking, and I don't know, maybe I mentioned to you, there's a guy, FBI NA grad, Michael Slocum, and he created a nonprofit for law enforcement where they go on hiking trips or backpacking. But one thing he has been doing is he's partnered with FBI NA. Mm-hmm. So every quarter, however often they have classes, one of those weekends he'll take them on a hiking trip. Oh, so when you say hiking, it's kind of cool because he's offered me a few times. So I told him I was busy in November. February's too cold, and I think he has one in May and August because he's been doing them every year. He has them scheduled every quarter. So when you say hiking, I think about that. And it's actually, hiking is, to me, because I've done some hiking, not extensive, but it is therapeutic.
Right. Because
you're outside, you're getting fresh air, you're walking, so you're exercising, but you're also seeing just life.
Right. Well, and for me, I love it, but most national parks, especially when you're going hiking, you don't have phone service. And so I am not going to cut my phone off. That is not me. I'm going to be, if the sheriff needs me or if one of my people needs me and needs to ask a question, I want to be there. And so I'm not going to cut my phone off. So sometimes going to a national park forces that because there's not a lot of phone service. So
that's what I'm going to add. Like, I know, seriously, that's what I'm saying. That's the cool, the therapeutic side, because you have no choice. Like, you can't stop nature.
Right.
Like, you can't say, well, I need to build a cell tower so I can walk this extra 5 feet. Like, so it almost like you look at your phone and you see no bars, or you see it says SOS only. You're like, well, that's nature. I'll be back in 30 minutes when I round this corner. But you're right though. It does force you to really like reset, because if you're like me, or like most of the viewers, we find ourselves around our phones all day, 24 hours a day. Sometimes we wake up to it. A lot of times we go to sleep to it. So just something like hiking is so cool because it allows you to literally pull away. So hiking, golf, anything else?
No, and I'm not saying I am probably not the poster child for hobbies and stepping away from the job. But like I said earlier, I really feel that it's a calling. At a very young age, I knew that I wanted to be a deputy and wanted to be an investigator, and so we're just plugged in. And
you're 25. You got to be plugged in.
Yeah, and again, I just want to be there to help people, and so that's that's my focus now.
So if people are looking to reach out to you, whether it's just Cherokee County or they just want to know more about Josh Summerford, what are some avenues? What are some ways they can find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, just a personal page on Facebook, and LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. My daughter recently created me an Instagram account.
I know, I tag you purposely, just
That's right.
But you do answer. It's like you don't really have anybody on there, but every time I tag you, you're always there.
Yeah, it's a new account.
Yeah.
And then the sheriff's office, we have a website that you can reach me through that, or it's Cherokee County ALSheriff.com.
Yeah, and I'll put on the video stuff so people can see it. But you're right that you're more active. I would say more on Facebook, and then a little bit of not as much on LinkedIn. Instagram, you're getting there.
Well, my daughter told me I was at the right age for Facebook. So
we did talk about Facebook earlier. And I do think for law enforcement in general, whether it's trying to make an awareness of the industry or recruitment, Facebook is still probably, to me, the best platform for that. Now, I know we talked about LinkedIn for like recruiting purposes, application, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube for awareness, but I think Facebook still provides the overall like outlook on law enforcement specifically. Now, if we're talking about like healthcare, we're talking about fashion, maybe I might say Instagram or TikTok, but for overall, I would say Facebook. So the fact that you're active on the thing that I think is best for where you're at and like where we're at, you're doing good. You're doing good. So people can find you on social media. They can find you on the Cherokee County website. Obviously, they can find you in different parts of Alabama since you're everywhere. You're here, you're Cherokee County. You sometimes go to Virginia. I know you have probably been to Virginia in a while.
No, I've been to Virginia, I guess, since 2020 when I was at National Academy. So
yes, I'm sure I have some National Academy people watch this, so hopefully they reach out. And I know you had some. I'm sure there's one or two of your classmates that might have been on the show. I don't know. There's so many numbers out there at this point. I think you guys are up to like 290 or something like that, 291.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so it's like right there. So with all of that, and you've given a lot of good nuggets. You kind of explained what you guys do in the Cherokee County. You talked about like wellness and how you're separating. What are some final words?
Well, something I was thinking about just the other day was that there's a lot of conflict in the world, whether on the global level or the national level in politics or local level or even personal relationships. And I really like people's quotes, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but President Reagan said, somebody that agrees with you 80% of the time but disagrees with you 20% of the time is not your enemy. And I feel like most things we agree with, probably more than 80% of the time. So there's just a really narrow scope of things that most people disagree on, that sometimes in relationships or cause divorces or cause people to leave a job or whatever. But I feel like that was a really good token of knowledge from President Reagan that we agree most of the time. And so just because we may have a disagreement on one item shouldn't make us enemies or make me feel like you're a traitor in some way. So.
Yeah, and a lot of people call it the Pareto principle, where you get 80% of what you need, the other 20% you're not, and that's what you want to complain about.
Right.
Like, why are we focused on the 20?
That's
like if somebody's following your lead and they're agreeing with you and you're on the same page for 80% of the time, that 20% that they're not, there might be a reason behind that.
Right.
That it might be maybe you're doing something wrong or whatever that principle is for them. Like they're really that's really them. But you don't just give up on them just because you're getting 4 out of 5 times in agreement mode. And people will be like, oh, that person doesn't like me because they said no to one thing.
That's right.
Literally one.
Right. Yeah, that seems to happen a lot. I mean, my wife and I don't agree 100% of the time.
Right.
And so I think the expectation to think you're going to agree with anybody on every single thing is not realistic. So
It's just an unnecessary stress.
It is. So I think we need to focus on, what we do agree on, and then, have civil disagreements where we don't agree.
Yeah. Like I said, I talked about that earlier too. Like, hey, it's okay to disagree with people. Right. It's okay. It's part of life. Like,
that's right.
The reason why we're all different people is because we all have different opinion on things. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying if you only agree with somebody 20% of the time, y'all may not get along, but that doesn't mean that they could be out of your life, because that might be a reason. That might be things that help you grow as a leader as well. Because a lot of things we talked about on today's episode is leadership. Like, sometimes it doesn't hurt to have that person that completely disagrees around either, because they may give you different ways and different ideas to elevate those around you, just because they're always like, no, Josh, that's not right. Deputy Chief Summerford, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Sometimes we need that challenge.
Yeah, I agree, and I welcome it. I feel like a lot of times, and sometimes I think it may be worse in the South because people are just that Southern hospitality, but instead of saying, hey, I really have a problem with this decision or this thing you did, they'll just be mad about it. Mm-hmm. Not just on a law enforcement level, but just in general, rather than saying to somebody, hey, I really disagree with this, and here's why. So
sometimes it's easier just to be honest and upfront.
That's right.
Just be transparent. Get it off the table.
That's right.
And then you're not honing any miscommunication, and they're not wondering what's going on. Just say it, and you're either gonna be mad at me now or mad at me later.
That's right.
Just let's be mad now, just so we can work through the kinks, versus me not knowing, and 3 years later you've been holding this level of animosity against me, and I didn't know why.
That's right. And a disagreement usually doesn't get better with time, generally. So if somebody's just held it in, but yeah, I mean, it's stressful for me not to be upfront and honest. So
yeah. Well, folks, you had it. You heard from Josh all the leadership challenges and good challenges that he has, especially work for Cherokee County, also being a husband and a father, and working on some of his hobbies slowly but surely. Hopefully we get him back hiking and I guess playing golf. I can't help him, but hey, maybe one of you all can. Maybe y'all can log in and say, hey, Josh, let's go play golf over here. If you say, Michael, let's go, it better be mini golf if it's me. That's all I got to say. But needless to say, I'm sure you all enjoyed this episode. I'm sure you had the opportunity to learn from him and understand that when you have the right leadership team, the possibilities are endless, because everything you're trying to achieve, everything you're trying to accomplish just becomes much more efficient. And are you going to hit roadblocks? Of course you're going to hit roadblocks. But if you can work through them, that's when you see the true growth in any organization, any office, any agency, whether it's law enforcement, private, nonprofit, whatever sector you want to put it in. When you have the right leadership working together, everything can be done. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen or watch another podcast. I appreciate that. And if you need anything, reach out. If not, be safe.
You've been listening to the LEO First Podcast. Michael has been in law enforcement since 2005. He's worked for 3 law enforcement agencies in 3 different states. He's a professional speaker who travels the country teaching about leadership development and self-awareness. And he's the author of a book called Greatness Beyond the Badge: The 3 Key Principles for Self-Awareness. It's Michael's passion to bring law enforcement members' stories to the front, so you get the real and raw take. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with Michael on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Michael Laidler, on Twitter at Michael A. Laidler, on Facebook at Michael Laidler Leadership. Send an email to michael@michaellaidler.com and hit the website at michaellaidler.com. See you next time on the LEO First Podcast.
Like that, I'm going to be leaving it over. My vehicle is driving in the remote.